Robschild. Nothing I say is investment advice. I wanted to do a special edition report regarding fiscal dominance. Now, this is something that's been largely popularized by Alden, who's an increasingly popular and famous economist. Her history was in aerospace engineering, I believe, and is now in finance and has been doing a lot of research. And I wanted to really delve into this topic because she's been going out there and talking to people about how the amount of interest payments that the government has to make on its huge amount of debt is stimulative and is actually going to end up causing more and more inflation. She believes we're in something called fiscal dominance. Now, doing some quick research, fiscal dominance is a rather extreme case. It suggests that the monetary policy of the Federal Reserve is not just limited, but possibly ineffective to the point where things can get out of hand. And I do not believe that we're there yet for a number of reasons I want to share from charts that I've found, 2 charts really, and some logical reasoning. So let's go through the charts. I found a very, very good article from Financial Times, link below in the video description, and this chart was included. I hope that they see me sharing this chart as an advertisement for their very good article and not stealing their information or anything. But this is a chart that they put out that shows is fiscal dominant, the contribution of U.S. fiscal policy to real GDP growth. And as you can see, we've actually gone negative recently. Now, the article does mention how, why is the debt continuing to increase? Well, it's because of the increased interest that they have to pay on the debt that's out there. And that's Lynn Alden's main point, is that all this money is being put out there into the system. And then, this article goes on to explain how, well, who benefits from that? Am I benefiting from that? Yes. I personally am, because I have a lot of cash and I have a lot of treasury bonds, but your average Joe, your average retiree right now, from what I'm gathering, the 60-40 portfolio has become very unpopular. We have lots of people in a 90-10 portfolio where they're all in stocks, and that 10% allocation with a higher rate, if you're holding the longer bonds and you've had that for a while, you've just shrinked your value. Like, is that really contributing to real people in the US? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this may be creating a larger wealth effect for international governments, like the article mentions, and big institutions that may be using these as ways of ensuring that they're able to gain yield. But I really do not believe that these higher payments coming from the government, are contributing to inflation. The first big piece of evidence that I feel like I have here is simply the yields on Treasury securities. Going back to the beginning of the 80s, we peaked out where the 10-year note was yielding almost 16%. Now, did this that's unbelievably high. Imagine getting a 16% return annualized right now. Where are you going to get that in the whole world? That's like impossibly high. And I'm going to suggest that if it was true that super high interest on borrowing from the federal government was very stimulative, this would have been extremely stimulative. And as you can see at this chart, right at its peak, we had the recession of 1981. Where's the inflation here? You know, and after this period, did it continue to get worse? Were we in a situation where debt and debt interest just ran rampant and out of control? No. In fact, from that date, for the next 40 years, lower and lower interest rates. Now, I said I was going to start with all the charts, but I'm going through the logical parts of this first, obviously. So the logical part of this is, so higher interest payments on debt are stimulative. Let's say this is true. So the Fed's been talking about cuts. The cuts are coming, the cuts are coming. Let's pretend the cuts are coming, and they do come. So does that mean that lower interest payments now are going to lead to disinflation? Is that how that works? I don't think so. You know, when we were at the bottom of this chart here with the 10-year note, when the 10-year was yielding a bottom of like 0.55 right here, or July 2020 it says 0.55% on the 10-year note. Was that disinflationary then? No. In fact, that was the beginning. That was trying to get inflation, and they got inflation. They got so much inflation that it flipped the other way. So I'm going to argue that high interest on national debt is not stimulative. At least not as much as Lynn Alden is claiming. Here's another chart. This is federal outlays interest as percent of GDP, gross domestic product. Yes, it has been going up and up and up. How much money as a percent of GDP is being paid from interest on debt? Now, this is not a hard chart to find. This is on Fred. This is a well-recognized government website. And as you can see, in 1991, it was as high as 3.2%. And we're not there. We're not even to the peak of this yet. And to suggest that we are indeed in a fiscal dominance period where monetary policy does not have significant, it's okay, it can be reduced maybe a little bit, but to claim fiscal dominance to the point where they don't really have an effect on inflation, I think she is not right here. If you disagree, if you have good arguments, if you're in Lynn Alden yourself, love to hear your thoughts, any mistakes that I've made in this material. Hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Robschild.